All right, Shalom. First and foremost, we give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And I wanted to go into this lesson um, based on this video I was watching by the elder apostle Ramlab. This is his one of his backup channels, GMS Info Doc 13. Okay, and then you also have GMS Info Doc 14. Okay, so I believe they gave the main one, the main GMS Info Doc channel a strike. So subscribe and don't forget to put the bell notifications on. That way, when when he goes live, or posts a video, you can get that notification. Because usually when you subscribe, they'll try to keep it off, and you won't be able to see that. But yeah, basically in the video, he was going into addressing a comment that was left on the comment board. All right, dealing with the cloud of great witnesses, and the various abilities that we were all given, and how we ought to find our lot. All right, and start working. Okay, if you have the ability to teach, okay, instead of trying to find an excuse, if you know that you can teach, but you're there's other factors that are trying to hinder you, then you got to pray to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai to take that spirit of fear or whatever is hindering you off of you, and allow you to go out there and do the work. So now, with that being said, I wanted to go into one part of it, because the elder mentioned how, hey, even some of the greatest speakers, and teachers, as you see them as they are today, that's not how they started. Okay, and that's really the focal point that I wanted to cover in this lesson, is that that's why the scriptures say not to compare yourselves among yourselves, because number one, we've not, all of us weren't given the same level of faith, the same level of the spirit. That's why some elders and some brothers are able to push out videos nonstop, but even then, there's times when you cool down, and then there's times when you just on fire. And it's like that for all of us. All right. But keep in mind that, yeah, you see elders, you see elder brothers, you see brothers, going into the different breakdowns, teaching and edifying, going out there to the highways and byways. And, sometimes, it's like they make it look easy, but you got to understand that all of us were in a certain position at one point. But it was through, experience and consistency and diligence that you see the men of the Lord teaching the way that they are today. Because when we first came into the truth, the faith that, if you've been growing, then the faith that you have now is on a much higher level than it was when you first came into the truth. Because within each and every one of us, the Lord has put like a starter pack, all right, within us. But just because you're given a certain amount doesn't mean that you're stuck there. Okay, that's where growth comes in. You can always pray for the Lord to grow your faith, but that you got to put in work for that. Okay, so you take what you've been given, and you all of us are going to start somewhere. Some start off with more than others, but regardless, there's something the Lord has given you within your spirit that you can start somewhere, and you grow, and you use what you have, and you build on it and build on it and build on it, and it starts to increase. All right, just like how you have a muscle, when you work out, the more and more you work out, the more the more familiar you become with it. The better you become at doing a certain thing, the more you do it. Okay, the more you learn, the more mistakes you make, and the more you can learn from those. So you got to ultimately pray to the Lord, look within, and just see where you start, and start to go from there. But if you look at an individual that's that's already on their path, they already know what their lot is, and they're already growing in that aspect, and you compare yourself as you are now to them. All right, and I'm speaking more so to like somebody that just came in, that's fairly new. If you do that, you're gonna feel like, damn, man, you know what I'm saying? There ain't nothing I could do. But understand that you haven't even seen your full potential, and you won't get to see it if you don't go out there and start using it. Okay, you may have great potential, but as a matter of fact, let me type in that word potential. Okay, you may have great potential, but if you keep it locked up, then what use is it? You're capable of doing this and doing this and doing this, but if you're only capable and you're not actually doing it, then how does that benefit? Capability is great because it it typically results in great outcome. And what the important part is, the outcome. That's what the Lord is looking for. So when you look up the word potential, it says having or showing the capacity to become or develop into something in the future. You see? So if you have the capacity to become or to develop into something in the future, but if you're not developing yourself, if you're not growing, if you're not going out there and exercising the gifts that you've been given, then you're not giving yourself that room to develop into what the Lord has put in you. Like the seed that's planted into the earth, it develops, it grows, and it becomes a tree. But obviously, if you compare a seed to an already grown tree that's bearing fruit, they're going to look completely different. But guess what? That grown tree that's bearing fruit at some point was also a seed that was put inside of the ground, and it sprouted, and it was small, but it grew. So this truth is about growing. It's a growth. It's a journey. It's not instantaneous. You don't just come into the truth and all of a sudden you're on boom. You're just at max capacity. Okay, all of us are constantly learning. But as it says here, latent qualities or abilities that may be developed and lead to future success or usefulness. See? So, and teaching is really it's not that hard. But if you make it out to be harder than it is, that's you just giving yourself an excuse not to do it. And since when was something being difficult an excuse not to do it? That's what Babylon teaches you, that just because something is difficult or you've never done it before, find another way. That's an excuse not to do it because it's difficult. That's not an excuse not to do it. It's not everything that you necessarily have a choice. Yeah, you may be faced with something that's difficult, but then you got to put that out your mind and realize it's not about whether it's easy or difficult. It's about this is what I got to do. Okay. So I'm gonna read this again. It says latent qualities or abilities that may be developed and lead to future success or usefulness. So there's a certain measurement that the Lord has put of faith and of the Spirit that the Lord has put within each and every one of us, and it's through experience, it's through being tried out, it's through developing by going out there, to the highways and byways. And when you start, of course, it's not easy. Hey, it's like jumping into a pool. When you first jump into the water, it feels cold, right? First you dip your feet in there, you're like, damn, this shit cool. Then you slowly start to, put your body into the water. And then what you realize is, for those, who've gone swimming, you realize that after some time, when you spend in the water actually starts to feel warmer than outside. And when you actually come out of the water, it feels colder outside or cooler outside than it does in the water. See? As where before you jumped in the water was what felt cold. See, so, before you get into it, that's really the big step. But once you get into it, you jump in and you start, going and doing what you got to do. you'll find where what path is it that that the Lord has put within you, and it's just gonna it's gonna come through. It's all the will of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua at the end of the day. But you shouldn't want to shy away from teaching, or going out there and doing the work of the Lord, because, hey, as even Apostle Tahar has said before, the highest office is to be a prophet. Prophets are above kings, and priests and all of that. Okay, and so as the Apostle Paul said, we have to covet to prophesy, because that's a gift that is a prophet is rare. It's today that, of course, you have so many prophets because the Lord has put us here in the last days. But there was times when you wouldn't have a prophet for a period of time. And if you didn't have a prophet, people, it's difficult for you to hear what the message of the Lord is, because the mouthpiece of the Lord are the prophets. So that's a very high office and a very important job. Okay? And that's why you want to be in the mix. Okay? When we go back and we read the scriptures, we hear about the men of old and the things they did, and how they stood stiffly for the name of the Lord, and they prophesied in the name of the Lord, and they went and they taught here, and they went and they taught there, and they went and they taught there. But guess what? In the kingdom, that's going to be written about now, about how the various different prophets, and what we, how we looked, what we were known as, where we went, New York City, and all these places. Because guess what? The same way in the scriptures you read about Nineveh, you read about Babylon, you read about Shushan or Susa, the palace. You read about Rome and all these different areas, Antioch, Alexandria, Egypt. Guess what? In the kingdom, this place is going to be written about. The different things that we did in this society, in this kingdom. Manhattan, 125th Street, 1 West, Dallas. Yeah, right now it's like, oh yeah, that's regular. But the same way we read about names like Nineveh, and Haran, and all these, well, guess what? That's how in the future this place is going to be written about. New York, and the works that we do now are going to be written about, just like the works that the prophets of old did back then was written about. So ultimately, we're also leaving a legacy that's going to be stored and remembered throughout all generations for all of eternity. And you don't want to go down as the individual that knew and deep down inside you had the ability to go and teach, but then you shied away from it, because Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai knows between you and them what they have given you, what you can do, and what you're currently doing. How well are you matching up to their expectation? All right. And at that point, when the Lord comes back, if he doesn't find you doing what meeting up to his measure, to his expectation, that's you're in some trouble. All right, you're in some trouble. So now let's get into a few of these precepts. This is the book of Matthew, chapter 25, verse 15. It says, "And unto one he gave 5 talents, to another 2, to another 1." So that's an example showing you that we weren't all given the same measurement, whether it be a faith or the ability to speak or the ability to do videos or whatever field it is. Brothers are specialized in different areas. Okay, some brothers are great with history. Some brothers are great with herbs. Some brothers are great with advice. Some brothers are great with wisdom, wise sayings. Okay, some brothers are able to they're good at it all. But it's all different talents that we've been given, right? Because the one that received 2, there's 3 other talents that were given to the first that the second didn't receive. So the second is going to have to make work with what he's been given. And one of them was given 1. But guess what? At the end of the day, when the Lord comes back, they all going to get a penny. Okay? Now there's order, of course, but the base pay is that everybody's going to get a penny. If we work at the same job and the pay rate is $25 an hour, all right, guess what? $25 an hour is what we all getting. unless somebody gets a raise or somebody's working overtime. But if we all work, the same, we all gonna get $25 an hour. That's the wage. But it says here, to every man according to his what? Several ability, and straightway took his journey. So that's the part I wanted to highlight, according to his several ability. So where you are now, we all know, look, we weren't all where we are now when we started. When we first came into the truth, we were different than we are now. But it's by, continuously studying. And that's why it's very, very important to watch the videos and to learn and to take notes and to go over those notes and to read the scriptures. Because as you watch the videos, you hear how the scriptures are broken down, what context they're used, how to understand it and use it. And that way, when you're reading the scriptures, okay, this means this is talking about this is talking about this. And as you start to gain more knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, you get to the point where you're able to now teach the things that you know. Okay? Because there's a balance to it all. We're not saying if you don't know something, go out there and teach anyway, just because. No. You want to make sure you teach what you know. When you start doing lessons, hey, if you came in and you learned, you're learning, but you learned about Yahweh Shai and the name of the Lord, and you study into that, you can do a video on that. Don't worry about the fact that there's been tons of videos already done on it. That's okay. You can still do a video on it, because the way that the Lord might have it come out from your vessel might be different. It might bring a little bit more insight to somebody's ears. See? So it's important that we exercise what's been given to us. As I went into the word potential, the several ability, the Lord has given us that potential, and we ought to utilize it to bring forth fruit, to bring forth, what the Lord is looking for. All right, to make his investment, because if you invest in something and you're not getting anything out of it, not only are you going to stop investing in that thing, but now they owe you. Right? Then investment is money you put in expecting something back out in return. So if you're here and you believe this word, look, just it's like, I'm sure that there's been a point in all of our lives where we've taught somebody something before, or we've told them something that they didn't know. Well, that's basically what you're doing when you teaching the word. You're explaining to somebody something that they did not know. All right, something that you know and that you understand, you put it together and you teach it. It's like you're speaking to somebody, because there's times when you can speak. If somebody was directly in front of you, you could say, oh, well, the MOTB is a charagma, or is this, because when you go into Revelation here, this is what it says, and you can explain it to them. Well, it's not really that different when you're doing a lesson or when you're out there on the highways and the byways. Because all you're doing is literally you're replicating the same behavior, is just in front of a camera. And actually when you start speaking, it's not really you anymore. It's the Spirit of the Lord that's utilizing your vessel. Okay? And that's also why it's important to study, because when the Spirit jumps on you, whatever you have accumulated, what it utilizes that. And then, the lesson comes out. And the more you study and the more you know, the more you grow, the more edifying your lessons will be, because the Spirit has more to work with, when it's on you. Okay? So this is the book of Hebrews chapter 5, verse 12. And it says, for the time ye ought to be teachers. So before you start to teach, all right, when after you've learned and you've been a student and it's about time for you to teach, ye have need that one teach you again. And in this time, the way we're teaching you is by way of these videos, by these lessons, these visual epistles. Sometimes you may have a question that you may ask on the comment board or on the live, the live feed, and then you may get an answer, or we may do a video on it. But that's so you can learn. And then based on what you've learned and what you've studied and what you understand, you can now teach that. But the first step before you can become a teacher is you need to be taught. So for individuals that say, oh, I don't need to come under no man and no camps, and well, that's how you learn. Okay, that's how you learn. You watch, and then you slowly but surely start to get involved. But the key part is you want to get involved. All right, you want to get involved because when you're involved with the work, you're involved with the reward. You're involved with the payment. All right, and when the payment comes, it's going to be so marvelous. Everybody's going to want to be involved with the payment, with the reward. But guess what? You got to put in the work. The true work, that the work the Lord is looking for. Okay? Because remember, there's each job that you, for example, even in this world, when you apply to a job, there's different jobs that have different requirements, different fields. So when you apply for a certain job and you get hired and you're working there, you got to work according to how you've been trained. That's why you have orientation. That's why you have to shadow somebody. That's why you might have a mentor. To where when you first start, they show you, okay, this is how we do this. This is what you have to do. This is how this is done. This is how you handle this situation. Okay, well, that's what you learn. So if you go into a job that you've never done before and you say, no, I don't need no training. I don't need no orientation. I don't need no mentor. All right, I do this myself. Okay. And you realize that you'll screw everything up. And then when you screw things up, guess what? The job ain't gonna keep you there because you're going against the grain. You're not working. What you're doing is not working. You're exerting energy, but you're not actually working. Okay, if your job is to you're in a retail and you're a cashier, but here it is, you're out here sweeping the floors and cleaning windows. You're not doing your job, which means you're not working. You're exerting energy doing something else other than your job. So you need to be taught how to operate the register and how to do this and how to do that. It may look easy because you see regular cashiers doing it all the time. Okay, this is your change, yada, 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 until you get behind the register. But there's always a beginning. And when you're in the beginning, just think ahead. What would it look like a month from now? What would it look like 2 months from now? As I start to break the ice and I start to do this over and over again, and I start to get the hang of it, then it's not so bad. It's not such a big monster anymore. But as it says here in Hebrews, the 5th chapter, when for the time ye ought to be teachers, before you can teach, ye have need that one teach you again. Why again? Because when you first come into this truth, what you're going to be taught is going to be more than likely different from what you've already learned in the world. So you need to be taught again, brought up as if you were a babe. That's why the scriptures refer to it as being born again, being a new creature, putting off the old man. Okay? It says, which be the first principles of the oracles of God, and are become such as have need of milk and not of strong meat. Okay? So you have need of milk, which is the beginning, the basics, and not of strong meat because you can't handle that yet. But as you drink the milk, you start to grow teeth. Eventually you get exposed to the meat, and then you can start to chew, and then eventually you can start to eat. Verse 13, for everyone that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he is a babe. Well, that's perfectly normal. You don't come out the womb as an adult. You come out as a babe. Everybody comes out as a babe. But you got to grow. There's no way to get to adulthood if you don't go from being a babe to an adolescent and, a young, there's a path that we all got to follow. So don't feel, well, I'm unskillful in the world. Well, that's of course because you're a babe. But that's not a reason to stop. That's not a reason to say, oh, well, I'm unskillful in the word. I can't teach like you do. That's the problem. You're trying to teach like I'm teaching. You should be trying to find out how you can teach. What teaching style do you have? What skills and abilities can you add on to the ministry and edify? What can you contribute? We don't need another clone. We don't need another me. We don't need another, we need you. The body is made up of different parts. Okay, the body doesn't have 3 legs and no arms. You got 2 legs, 2 arms. Okay, you have different parts of the body. The body is not just the brain cloned multiple times. You don't need multiple brains. You only need one. And then you need an arm, and then you need a finger, and then you need ears, and then you need eyes. Okay, so everybody that comes into this ministry, there's something the Lord has given you that can contribute, that makes you unique, that you can add on, a different spirit, whatever it is, that you can add on to further the gospel, to further the ministry, and to start building up your resume, your spiritual resume. Okay, so it says here, verse 14, but strong meat belongeth to them that are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. And when you first come into the truth, look, you may turn out to be, a great teacher, right? A great prophet. But if you don't step out there and put yourself out there and actually overcome that fear, that nervousness of that first time, you won't be able to step into your element that's required for you. Okay? And time is running short. So now is the time when you gotta just dig in, get your hands dirty, and put in that work. Because eventually, that whatever the treasures that you store, you're gonna need that. The resume you built, you're gonna need that. Moving on, this is the book of 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 2. It says, as newborn babes, desire the sincere milk of the word. You have to desire the milk. Don't look at the meat right now. Focus on the milk, what you can handle, and desire it. Desire it. Desire it. Like when you see a baby that's sucking on breasts, they look like they never ever gonna stop. Their eyes closed, their hand got the grip, and their face is just going at it like a suction cup. And they're just going and going and going because they're desiring that milk, which is eventually going to help them to grow. All right. So as newborn babes, desire the sincere milk that ye may grow thereby. So if you want to grow, you got to go for the milk. You got to study. And then when you study, you become more confident that you can teach. When you actually study, not just listen to regurgitate, but study and pray to the Lord for the Spirit first and foremost, but study and learn and add more to what you already know and understand what you're studying. That'll give you confidence to teach, and to teach with authority. Okay, to teach, with confidence in the Spirit. But you gotta take that first step. Okay, it's very important that you take that first step and realize that, look, from one step you get 2 steps, and then 3, and then 4, and then it goes on just like that. Okay, so we didn't all start off where we are now. So don't look at the now and say, oh, and then look at yourself. No, you got to start somewhere, just like we all started somewhere. Okay, the elders, the apostles, they put in all these years, 30 plus years, but guess what? There was a point in time when they weren't in the truth. And there was a point in time when they first came into the truth, and they went through that learning curve, and they got rebuked, and they got cursed out. They'll tell you the stories, and you had people that looked at them as, these guys, these rebels, this, but guess what? They grew and continued and continued and continued. So when you see the elders as they are today, you remember at some point they also had to start. The bishops, the elder brothers, everybody that you see doing the work today, we all started somewhere. We all started as a seed, that was watered and nurtured and grew. And because we remained diligent and we continued desiring the sincere milk and growing at the appointed time, guess what? Now you continue to grow from there. You continue on the path. Okay, so I got a couple more. This is the book of Ecclesiasticus 11 and 20. It says, be steadfast in thy covenant, and be conversant therein, and wax old in thy work. Okay, That's the point. You want to wax old in thy work, but you cannot wax old in your work if you don't start the work. You got to put your hand to the plow. And yes, you may be plowing and you may hit a certain rock. The ox may try to run one way. And you, oh shit, I love the ox. Oh Lord, this shit dragging me. Oh, whoa, hold up. How do I? But eventually you'll find, you'll get on your feet. Eventually you make it. Eventually you'll overcome it. And then next time you grab the plow, you're aware, okay, this could happen. So let me not make that mistake again. And then before you know it, grabbing onto the plow and doing the work is second nature. And you're looking at, okay, how can I improve? What can I build on? How can I do this here? But it's all that's what growth is. That's how it works. Okay, that's how it works. It's not easy, but it's doable. And in this case, it's a must. So as it says, wax old in thy work. And that's what you want to do. And this truth, this is our work. As prophets, as men of the Lord, this is our work. And this is what we have to do. And this is what we have to continue to do, because there's nowhere else we'd be better suited for. The prophet is not better suited for anything else than to prophesy. Yes, you may have talents. Yes, you may be an artist. You may be able to rap. You may be able to sing well. But ultimately, you ain't going to be able to do those things as well as you can prophesy. Because your spirit, your specialty, right? The specialty that was attached to your spirit is prophecy. Okay? So you got to find that, and you got to excel at it. You got to strive for greatness. Okay? You got to put off the weak nature, and you just got to go. Go and go and go. If you look at Mayweather, he didn't become good just by thinking about it. He went and did it. Okay? He went and did it. He went for that crown. So we got to go for that crown. 1 Corinthians 3:12, it says, now if any man build upon this foundation gold, silver, precious stones, wood, hay, stubble, these are the levels of your work. Okay? And you want to strive for gold. Even if you were given one talent, guess what? You want to be the best one talent out there. Okay? And pray to the Lord. Maybe he'll increase it. See, but at the end of the day, use it, because I'm sure there's some brothers who were given not as much talent as another brother, but from the looks of it, you wouldn't be able to tell, because that individual is using what he was given to the fullest, to the best of his ability. All right. So it says, verse 13, every man's work shall be made manifest, for the day shall declare it, because it shall be revealed by fire. So it's going to be tested. All right. It's going to be tested. And the fire shall try every man's work of what sort it is. Now, what do we know? What does fire do to gold? It purifies it. It makes it better. What does fire do to silver? It purifies it. Precious stones, that's good. Then you start to get to the wood. You start to get to the hay. You start to get to the stubble. And the fire consumes that. Okay? It consumes it. So there's different categories and there's different levels in your work, but you don't want to fall in the bottom. That's what you had. That's why we have the privilege of growth. You may start off on the bottom, but that's no excuse to stay on the bottom. Starting off on the bottom is fine, but you got to grow. You don't want to stay on the bottom. Okay? Verse 14, it says, if any man's work abide, which he hath built thereupon, he shall receive a reward. So the reward is going to come for those who are doing what's pleasing to the Heavenly Father, to Yahweh B'Hashem Yahweh Shai. Verse 15, if any man's work shall be burned, he shall suffer loss, but he himself shall be saved, yet so as by fire. Yeah, ultimately, because the scriptures say that all Israel shall be saved, but there's going to be a different ways in which we're going to be saved. The elect are going to be saved out of the fire, okay? And those that are of the non-elect are going to be saved by the fire, meaning that they're going to die, but they're going to come back, in the kingdom. All right? But you want that reward. Okay? You want that reward. You want that crown that Yahweh B'Hashem Shai is going to give his elect. Okay? This is Fear Yahweh 144, 1 Corinthians 9 and 16. For though I preach the gospel, I have nothing to glory of, for necessity is laid upon me, yea, woe is unto me if I preach not the gospel. You hear that? Woe is unto me if I preach not the gospel. So, it's a necessity. It's something that you have to do, especially if the Lord has already invested in you. You don't really get a choice. If the Lord has already invested that talent in you, then you've been thrown into it already. And realizing that now, you got to hurry up and catch up, because the Lord is coming and he's requesting something from everybody. So make sure you got something to give the Lord, or else he's going to take you. Not in a good way, not in deliverance, but he's going to take your life. Okay? So with that, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying and exhorting to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, B'cha Kodash. Until next time, Shalom.